Welcome back, Plant Science. So we've learned a little bit about seeds and roots and photosynthesis. Now we're going to focus on the shoot, things that are above the ground. Okay. The above ground parts of the plant are the shoot system, and there are several basic parts present on the shoot that are important for us to know when examining plant and anatomy and physiology. Okay, so within our plants, the shoot systems can be classified as woody or herbaceous. And I just want to briefly touch on this in case we hadn't thought about this before. But woody plants are trees. So trees are actually plants. So some of you guys may challenge me on that. That's fine. But woody plants like trees contain stems or twigs that are made out of wood, whereas herbaceous plants contain stems that are made of green plant material. So flowers, tomatoes, celery, things like that. Those are all types of herbaceous plants. Okay. A winter twig can be found on the right-hand side. And you'll notice as we talk about the anatomy of a woody plant versus a herbaceous plant is pretty darn similar. You have the same basically types of structure. You have a node, internode structure, which we'll talk about with the next slide. But there's a lot of similarities between woody and herbaceous plants. If you take natural resources or if you have taken it, you know a little bit more about the anatomy of trees and how that plays a role within the forest ecosystem. We're not going to focus a whole lot on trees in this class, obviously, focusing mainly on herbaceous plants, but I just thought I would throw this little tie-in there. Okay, so we have our herbaceous plants. Okay, these are the key parts of a herbaceous shoot system. So first we have our stem. The stem is the stalk that serves as the highway from the root to the flower. There are two key parts of the stem. We have the xylem and the phloem. Xylem carries nutrients up the stem. Phloem carries nutrients throughout the plant. The way I like to remember it is a xylophone. And if you're going from low to high, okay, low note to a high note, xylem carries nutrients up the stem. Phloem flows throughout the plant. Okay. The node is the location where plant growth occurs, so the point where leaf and flower emerges. So right here would be an example of a node. This would be a node. This would be a node, this would be a node, this would be a node, node. You get the point, lots of nodes. And the internode is the space in between the two nodes. So in one of the previous videos, I talked about kind of thinking of it as a highway. Like we know that stem is our highway. Okay, an exit would be a node going into a town, and the internode would be the space between two exits. Leaves are the green structures that assist in making plant through photosynthesis. And lastly, of course, we have the flower, and this is the main fruit of a product or a plant, whether or not it actually is a botanical fruit or not. I like to call it a fruit because that's just sounds cooler, I guess. So like up here, obviously, is our flower. We're not going to spend, unfortunately, a whole lot of time talking about the anatomy of flowers. There's a lot there. Mr. Ramsey did not do so hot on that unit in plant science in college, but we may spend a little bit of time in class covering that. It just isn't the most pertinent to us right now with what we're going to be covering in the course, but it's pretty fascinating. There's a lot of different parts within flower anatomy that are actually pretty cool once you get down to the nitty-gritty of it. Okay, so one part that I want to talk a lot about here, and we're going to have a whole other video dedicated to this here in the next segment, is the apical meristem. The apical meristem allows plant cells to develop. Plants are classified based on their apical meristem. Okay, we can have determinate and indeterminate plants. Okay. Determinate plants are plants that are more popular in agriculture and ornamental plants, and this allows for all plants to ripen around the same time. So an example of that would be corn or soybeans. Okay? There is a determinate or finite time in which the plants ripen. Indeterminate, on the other hand, is when the apical meristem remains capable of forming new nodes and internodes throughout the season because the length of the stem is not determined. So an example of this would be vine tomatoes. So we're going to stop here for now, and I'm going to have a nice little graphic here on the next slide that kind of elaborates on this a little bit more.